All right. So I want to talk about, are you sexually compatible with your partner? Now, there's a new definition for sexually compatible. You are not going to believe this, but yes. Old definition: similarities in the emotional, cognitive, and behavioral components of a sexual relationship. Okay, that means that you have some similar thinking, some similar behavior, and some similar emotional feelings when you think of compatibility. That's the old definition. The new definition is a sexual agreement where a couple or couples have an understanding of one another's sexual preferences and the degree of agreement in these sexual preferences. All right, which means you as a couple, you and your partner agree to sexual needs, wants, and desires between the two of you, the preferences, what you prefer to do. It's an actual agreement. We should actually get it in writing, right? Write it down, sign, get it notarized, get it witnessed, because that is what the new compatibility is. So when you think of Travis Hunter and his girl, right? Everyone's wondering, are they compatible? We really don't know. No one knows, because according to the new definition, it depends on what they agree upon in the relationship and in the bedroom. Same thing with you guys. Are you compatible? It's now based on your being agreeable, your being able to agree or compromise or accept each other's differences and negotiate a deal where you actually have an agreement to have certain acts in the bedroom, right? So that is what the new definition is. I'm going to say it again. I love this new definition. A sexual agreement, all right? Put it in writing if you have to, where couples understand one another's sexual preferences and the degree of agreement in these sexual preferences. So I need you to tell everybody, okay? This is something that is pretty new. That's what studies are talking about now, research. And if you want some of the studies, let me know. I'll send them to you. That is what they're saying now. It's more, can you agree? Or can you get over your disagreements? Can you really talk about things that you don't agree about and then come to an acceptance between the two of you? Okay, I can handle this, I can handle that. So it's not what we have in common or what we have that's similar. It is now, what can we negotiate? Okay? All right. Types of compatibility. We have the emotional compatibility, right? Where your feelings are similar, right? Or different. And then you can agree on how you're going to handle emotions in the relationship. The physicalness of the compatibility, which is the sexual compatibility. The intellectual, your mind, how you discuss, what you talk about, what your interests are. Spiritual compatibility, social compatibility. Okay, that's where you go out and you are enjoying the same activities or not, and then agreeing to. So you see my point? Same thing with spiritual, right? If you're having one religion and one says, oh, you know what, I'm going to join your religion, you've agreed. That is becoming the new definition. That is becoming compatible, sexually compatible or compatible, and in the bedroom, sexually compatible. So it's an agreement. Remember that. This is crucial, okay? Now, I threw here actual and perceived. I threw these two words in here because I wanted to stress that there is a difference between an actual compatibility and a perceived compatibility. And I just wanted you to know that actual compatibility is where you truly, truly are compatible, meaning you have actually done the work, the act, the performance in the bedroom, right? Or, in general. So the actual compatibility is where you truly have proof that you're compatible because you've done it. Perceived is where you're thinking that you're able to do something, whether it's similar or able to agree. And in your mind, it has happened, but it really hasn't happened in actuality. Okay. So just know that they're saying that the actual compatibility is not as important as the perceived. It's more important to have that perceived compatibility, that hope that you're going to be compatible. Okay. So just remember that hope, that game plan to be compatible is actually more important than actually being compatible in actuality. And I know it's an oxymoron, but it's important to know because I believe that that is more emotional and more positive and more looking towards a better future in a great way rather than being waiting for the results to happen before you think you're compatible. So I think based on the studies that I've read, and again, if you want me to share them with you, I'll share them with you. You have to understand that this is not based on actual. A lot of studies show that the perceived, the idea that you can agree, the idea that you can come to a resolution is what makes this more important. Because if someone, especially women, because we're a lot more emotional and a lot more connecting and connected and into all the mind stuff, right? Meaning we overthink, right? So we want to try and get that positive energy going more than the men in general. Again, I'm saying in general. So I think that is what carries us into the relationship and allows us to be hopeful that the relationship will get better, right? And so then when it gets to the actual compatibility, that's a different story, all right? But they're saying that if you have the perceived, that's a great start. So those of you that are hopeful, men and women that are really, really positive, really want to try and make it work, that is the most important compatibility. So again, Travis Hunter and his girl, if he and both of them, if they are determined to make it work, it will work. So we have to leave them alone and let them decide and find out eventually who is going to agree to what and whether they can end up being compatible in the new definition. Okay, guys? All right, so let's give them a break and give them some peace. Okay? All right. Research says sexual compatibility is significantly related to sexual satisfaction. All right. So, y'all know I've said this before. Your sexual compatibility gives you sexual satisfaction in the bedroom. And sexual satisfaction gives you longevity, gives you long life, right? We talked about that before, okay? Another note I wanted to make here was in the women, females, we need emotional and relational qualities to get sexual satisfaction more than the actual quality of the sexual interaction. So, we women, studies show, we need that emotional and that relationship thing going, that communication, that attention, right? I'm sure you all know that women are a little bit more needy. Okay. So, we need that more than the actual quality of the sexual interaction in the bedroom. And that's because it's so connected to our enjoyment in the bedroom. So just know if we're not getting that emotional interaction and that relational interaction with you, we're not going to have a great time in the bedroom with you. Again, in general, that's what studies show. We need to get that emotion going and that relationship going for us to have great sex in that bedroom. Okay? For the men, you know it's going to be different. For the men, they need sexual behavior for sexual satisfaction. Forget the emotional, forget the relationship in terms of interaction. For them, for men, and again, in general, studies show that you guys need sexual satisfaction in the bedroom, the behavior, the acts. What's going on in the bedroom is what you need to have sexual satisfaction. So, guys, we're not surprised. Women, we're not surprised. So what we have to do, we have to agree, get to a compatible point where we are agreeing on what we can do, give and take, so that we can have a great sexual satisfaction and a great relationship in the long term. Okay. The last thing I squeezed in here says compatibility is a reflection of the extent to which partners perceive themselves to share sexual needs, beliefs, and sexual preferences. But these perceptions or lack of these perceptions do not determine evaluation of the sexual function. So, what I'm trying to say here is that we perceive, like remember I said that before, that perception versus the actual, we actually do perceive a lot of this compatibility. We think we're compatible, but we really don't know until we get into the relationship deeper and deeper and longer, right? So we have to be careful and know that even though we're perceiving it and we're trying to perceive our needs and our wants, it doesn't really tell us the actual sexual function in the bedroom until we actually do it. So just know that the perception is good, but it sometimes doesn't end up in an actual sexual function in a good way. So it could end up in a bad way. But either way, there's hope. And remember, to be compatible, you find a resolution, you find an answer, you find an agreement, and you find a way to make it work. Okay, guys? All right. I do have another um, board I want to show you real quick. Okay. And over here, I am talking about quality of sexual compatibility. All right. So the quality of sexual compatibility and the quantity of the sexual compatibility are two things we should know also. So quality is, we know, the value, the actual feeling of it, while quantity is a number. Okay, so the number, how much. Now, the quality, meaning sexual compatibility, right? To get quality in sexual compatibility, we've got to get quality and we've got to get quantity, right? We've got to get numbers going, we've got to get feelings going for us to be able to be compatible in the new way, right? The agreement way. So when you're sexually compatible, you're trying to get couples to participate, meet each other's needs, solve problems, right? So that's what we're trying to do. That's the new definition. And then it leads to an understanding, a sexual agreement, interest in continuing the sexual relationship. So all that starts to happen when the couples start to work together, right? Then you get mutual satisfaction and sexual compatibility, and it continues, right? So that's the game plan to get quality. Participate. Men participate. Women participate. You've got to come together and you have to sit down and spend time and take time to spend and find out your differences and find out the similarities and find out the compromise and find out what you can do to make the relationship better. And that's the secret. People that do that have long lasting relationships. Those people that don't do that do not. That's what the studies show. Okay. So to get quality, you want to spend time together and you want to be able to find out what issues are going on. And again, there are ways of doing this, like once a week you meet, right? Have a meeting like for an hour, or just make sure that you have a time that you spend, whatever, time you want, to talk about your problems in the relationship. Okay. And that's what they're trying to say. And then the mutual sexual satisfaction will come from that close communication. Okay. And that quality improves. Okay. For quantity of sexual compatibility, couples' capability to provide the requirements of a sexual relationship, meaning you have to be able to function. You have to be able to provide the actual sexual requirements that you need in a relationship. So you've got to be healthy. You've got to make sure that you take care of yourself physically. Get that physical, guys, men and women, right? So you have to be able to function. So if you're tired, if your hormones are low, if you're in pain, you've got to resolve them. See a doctor like me, a doctor that knows how to address your physical issues so that you can physically perform. And men, I know that you know that when your sexual function goes down, there is a problem with your heart. I've said that before. So try and make sure that you focus on your heart when you're going for that physical. Get that EKG, get that stress test if you have to, especially if you have a family history. Get your heart checked out for men and women, but especially men, because you guys have higher rates of heart attacks, okay? So that your ability to be able to perform is going to give you quantity. Because if you can't perform, if you're not physically healthy, you're not going to get quantity, both men and women. So women that are going through menopause, no excuse. Get that treated, get that balanced, okay? Now, once you get that capability going, there's going to be an agreement on how to have sex. So when you're physically able to, you're going to now have that agreement. How many times a week? How many times a month? Right? What styles, what positions, what acts, right? You really want to have that agreement because you want to have that discussion. And that's because you're able to have that discussion because you're healthy. But if you're not, you won't be able to have that agreement on the sex, right? Because you're not able to perform. So we have to make sure that you are having an agreement based on your capabilities. So you got to work out, you got to eat well, you got to exercise, check your sugar, check your blood pressure, right? And make sure you're well so that we can have that agreement and actually agree on it and actually get a result from it, right? And then we go over to their ability to manage the obstacles to achieve desirable outcomes, meaning if there are differences, you guys can negotiate around that, right? That's the secret. You've got to be able to sit down and have an honest and open conversation. You know, I am about that, about being able to go through obstacles and come through them shining and being able to say, you know what, we did it. Okay. Very important in the relationship to get mutual sexual satisfaction, right? Which is a game plan that will give us longevity and give us long life, right? And we'll be here for a long time and be in the relationship for a long time and be happy. Okay, and get benefits from that, which we've talked about before. So that is quantity. To get quantity, you have to have that physical capability. And to get quality, you have to have that communication, that agreement, that ability to be able to negotiate deals and make it between the two of you a compromise so that both of you will be able to say, you know what, we are happy or at least on the way to being happy. Okay, so love this topic. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it tomorrow. We're going to talk about some variables. What affects the compatibility? What are those characteristics that you need to know about and need to agree upon and need to be aware of that will make you agree or disagree on your being compatible or not, or making an agreement to be compatible? Because I think what they're trying to tell us is that we can actually choose to be compatible with who we want to be compatible with. All right? We'll talk about that tomorrow. Okay, guys, good to see you. Take care. Night night.